Panthers, man, they're not a good football team. They had a little break from 32 for a little while once again, but they're back there. The Giants won, they lost, so kind of felt right to move them around there a little bit. The Giants and the Panthers have been some of the worst teams in the NFL this year, as we know. But the Panthers, I will say, that one drive, the 14, I think it was like a 14 play, 70-some yard drive. That was the best drive I've ever seen out of Bryce Young. I saw greatness in that drive. Now, he has to learn that drive, look at it again, and just do what he did then. Because he looked like the Bryce Young that we thought he could look like. But ultimately, you lose. You get beat up pretty bad. You played a really good Cowboys team. And Bryce Young, like I've said, he doesn't really have too much around him. It's tough for him. So, Panthers, yeah, they're down here at 32. But 31, Giants getting a break from 32. They were at 32 for a week or 2 weeks. I don't remember. I don't know if it was 2 weeks or not. But you have a pretty good game versus the Commanders, I guess. They always find a way to beat the Commanders. I don't know what it is. Those two teams always go back and forth. But the Giants, they always find a way. I really thought the Commanders would win. Because, they're Sam Howell, their offense has been great. But, their turnover has really killed the Commanders and the Giants. I mean, they took advantage of it, but I would like to see more consistency from Saquon Barkley in this, in their running game. That our running game wasn't really there. I think they had like 0 rushing yards going into the third quarter, which is not very good, obviously. So, they are what they are. Not going to spend too much time down here on these bottom teams because they're bad. We know what they are. Majority of us. We're 30. New England Patriots, they put they run by. 29, the Cardinals, I'm blanking. Who did they play? It was the Texans. They put up a good fight. It was a close game. Towards the end there, they really made it close. They put up a good fight, but didn't really feel the need to move them just the way the board fell. It didn't feel necessary to move them anywhere. Then, as the season goes on, I look at power rankings as a puzzle. And at the beginning of the year, you're moving these pieces around a lot. They move around a lot. They move up a lot of spots, move down a lot of spots. The movement is a lot within the first couple of weeks of power rankings of the NFL. But as the season goes on, as you get more pieces of the puzzle in the right spots, you don't have, they don't move around as much. And I think that is the perfect analogy for power rankings. For mine, anyways. 28, Titans, moving down 2 spots after a really disappointing loss to the Jaguars. Get absolutely killed. Dominated. Couldn't do nothing. Will Levis, he had 2 touchdown day. Looked like he looked all right. But the Titans just play so much worse when they're away. And nonetheless, you still lose. You're moving down 2 spots. You got beat up pretty good. I couldn't really move the Cardinals up over them because they didn't win either. But yeah, Titans moving down 2 spots. Them and the Packers basically switched there. 27, the Raiders. They put up a good fight versus the Dolphins. It feels like that Raiders defense has been playing better the last couple of weeks here. They've been doing a pretty good job, but the offense is pretty lackluster. But it feels like the new coach has a new kind of like juice into these guys. They're kind of wanting to go out there and play. I mean, Josh McDaniels was horrible, but the new coach, I don't really remember who he was for them, but hey, it seems like he's doing an all right job. He did a very good job versus the Dolphins offense, limiting them as much as you could. The defense did their job. The offense didn't do really good, but they kept it a close game versus one of the better teams in the NFL. Didn't really feel a need to move them. We're 26. Green Bay Packers moved out 2 spots. Really impressive win. If I felt like this was Jordan Love's best game of the season, one of his better games of the season. Now, the question becomes, can he tack these performances on? Can he keep them going? Can he find some consistency? Can he do it again? I think that's the big question. But he looked pretty good against the Chargers defense. Is pretty bad, one of the worst in the league, to be fair. Felt like, Jaden Reed had a really good game. Dontavian Wicks really did a good job this week. It feels like this Packers offense can continue to get better down the stretch. But right now, they're not really, they're still not great. We're going to see if they can tack on these performances. If they could, then awesome. Maybe they could make a run at this down the stretch of the season. But I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But, I mean, it's a step in the right direction, beating the team I thought they wouldn't be. And it was one of those games I was really confident in, too. But the Packers just couldn't. They just couldn't do it. They just couldn't. So, moving on. No, wrong thing. 25 Chicago Bears felt like they outplayed the Lions that entire game. Just a pathetic finish. You're up. I think they're up 10 points with like 4 minutes left to go or something. So it was really pathetic to lose that game. But look, it feels like Justin Fields is hitting his stride a little bit. Can he keep it going? He was running the ball at such a high level. Really impressive to see how close they kept it. But didn't really feel the need to move them. They played a strong game. The end was really disappointing, but they put up a good fight versus one of the better teams in the NFL, a top 5 team for me. 24 Colts, they were on the bye. Don't really feel a need to move the Colts around. For 23, the New York Jets. Wow, they looked bad. They looked horrible. And it was really bad. I mean, we already knew how bad the offense was. The defense, it's a good defense, but the defense gets tired after a certain amount of time. They get sick and tired of having to, they can't do it all season long. It's a great defense, and that's what's keeping this team afloat. But the offense is horrible. Zach Wilson was finally benched, but still, not a good football team. They're clinging on for dear life with defense, and that's all they really had. Are they really going to be in the playoff race by week 15? I guess I've heard that. I heard that's when Aaron Rodgers is trying to come back, I guess. I don't think he should. I don't think he will. But I've been hearing some rumors that Aaron Rodgers is going to come back towards the end of the year if everything goes to plan. But right now, Jets are one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're not looking very good. I know I don't have them ranked towards the bottom. That's because they have had some good wins here and there. They have beat some good teams, but it is what it is. 22, the Commanders moved down one spot. Very fortunate to only lose this game by 11 points. They turned the ball over 6 times. They did not look good. They looked absolutely horrible. They looked like one of the worst teams in football yesterday. They lost to one of the worst teams in football yesterday. So it makes sense, but very disappointing outing. Sam Howell is going to have to clean up the turnovers as the rest of the team needs to, because 3 fumbles and 3 interceptions, you're going to lose. There's no one you're going to beat in the NFL when you do that kind of stuff. And it's a very, very pathetic outing. Very pathetic. And I do love Sam Howell. I think Sam Howell was pretty good. He just really couldn't get anything going. And then, the defense on top of that, you let Tommy DeVito absolutely shred you. I mean, that defense is looking horrible. Tommy DeVito was 18-26, 246 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, that is bad. But props to Tommy DeVito. Props to him. Sam Howell didn't look good. 3 interceptions. I still really like Sam Howell. There's not really much he can do, to be fair. But this is such a weird game though, because the Commanders turned the ball over 6 times, but they had the football almost 10 minutes longer than the Giants had it. Yet they lost by 12 points. Pathetic outing. Crazy. I thought this was one of the craziest games. It's just if you look at the box score, it's like it's wild. It's crazy because the Commanders outrushed the Giants by almost 100 yards. They outpassed them by 29 yards. They outgained them by more than 100, and they had the ball 10 minutes longer. But I mean, I guess that's what turning the ball over 3 times does to you. It's bad. Falcons moving up 2 spots. I mean, they're coming off the bye, but considering how bad the Jets and the Commanders looked, didn't really think they should be moved. They just no. It just felt like the right move to move them up 2 spots. Very fortunate to have the type of bye week they did. 2 teams in front of them looked absolutely horrible, so they really benefit from that. Number 20, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bad outing versus the Niners. Kind of what we expected. I mean, I expected the Buccaneers to struggle offensively. I expected the Niners to have a really good day passing the football. And I even thought, I looked at this game and I said, the Niners should have no problem passing the football. They may struggle to run a little bit. And they did, because the Bucs have a really good run defense. It's tough to run against them. And passing, it kind of depends on your scheme. And, their defense is very beatable, passing defense wise, because they're very aggressive. Todd Bowles is a very aggressive head coach, a very aggressive defensive guy. He wants to blitz, he wants to call man coverage. And against a Kyle Shanahan team with guys that can run routes like Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle could, and of course CMC coming on the backfield, it's going to be a tough day for the defense. And that man coverage is not going to last. And as you saw, Brock Purdy and that Niners offense killed it. They killed it, and they passed all over them all day long. Baker Mayfield looked all right, though. He looked all right. I mean, he did what he could. There's only so much you can do in that type of game when the opposition is just a lot better than your offense and what you have as a whole. 19, Saints on bye. Didn't feel a need to move them. Steelers moving down 3 spots. Just fired Matt Canada, so we'll see how they can do moving on from him. Can, having a new offensive coordinator, is Kenny Pickett going to be able to let it loose? Is he going to be able to do what he wants to do? Because Kenny Pickett is better out of structure. He's a better improviser than in structure. And just the runs up the middle, to start every single game get old, and they get easy to predict, as we've seen. But, hey, good game for the Steelers here. And it feels like my graphics are really messed up because, all right, yeah, they are messed up. But, yeah, they're still moving down 3 spots. It was a, wait, who the heck did they play? I'm blanking. I am blanking so bad right now. The Steelers played the Browns. You ran the ball well. But you really couldn't do anything outside of that. It's really questionable. Why aren't you giving Jalen Warren the ball more? I get it. Najee Harris is a first-round pick, but he's just not performing. And it does sting a little more to have to sit a first-round pick and to have to cut his snaps. And, they already have, but you have to cut into his snaps more. And Jalen Warren has been awesome. Moving down 3 spots, very disappointing loss to the Browns. They were in it the entire game with DTR. He did what he had to do late in the game, and that was a difference. It was basically, who was going to outperform who, and DTR outperformed Kenny Pickett. For 17, the Seattle Seahawks, that was bad. Well, weren't they up by like 2 possessions, 2 scores? If not, they're up by a bit, by at least a score and 8, I think. And the Rams end up coming back like out of nowhere. And, Matthew Stafford kills it. They do a great job. And Drew Lock, when he went in there, he looked absolutely horrible. Really disappointing loss. And it feels like this Seahawks team, they started the year really well, but it feels they are starting to taper off. The offense hasn't been very good. And now on top of that, you're dealing with Geno Smith is dealing with the right elbow injury. It's like the MCL sprain or whatever you call it on your elbow. Very disappointing. Not good for Geno. Not good for the Hawks. They didn't really look good with him anyways, to be honest with you. But you're down here at number 17. You move down quite a bit. Number 16, the Los Angeles Rams move up 3 spots, and they jump the Seahawks after beating them. Nice little comeback. Matthew Stafford looked all right. He did go down for a little bit. I thought I saw he went down, but it looked like he came back in right away. Thought we were maybe going to get some Carson Wentz action. But, yeah, the Rams move up 3 spots after an impressive comeback versus the Seahawks. Chargers, I have so many bones to pick with this team. I don't even want to for the sake of my mental health. I don't want to get into it too much, but here we go. I feel so bad for Justin Herbert. You look at the rest of this team. You look the beautiful throw he made down the stretch, and Quentin Johnson just dropped it. It's Brandon Staley has to go. Very horrible game. A game you should have won. Why didn't you run the ball more? You were running the ball so effectively, so great against the Packers, and you just stopped running the ball for whatever reason. It's pathetic. It's pathetic on what we're seeing from this Chargers team. From the roster, from the coaching staff, the staff in general. Give rid of Brandon Staley now. I mean, I know they don't really get rid of head coaches during the season, in the middle of the season, but come on, man. You have to change sometimes. He's horrible. He's horrible. Brandon Staley's horrible. He's supposed to be a defensive-minded head coach, but his defense isn't even good. It's pathetic. And, it's too late to throw a ton of money to the rest of the team to around the offense because Herbert's off of his rookie deal now. Moved down 3 spots. Very pathetic. Pathetic. For 14, the Vikings, they moved down 1 spot after a tough loss to the Broncos. It is what it is. Dobbs struggled in this game a little bit. I noticed Dobbs, he threw quite a few passes in this game that could have been much worse. That could have had a much worse result. So, very fortunate in that aspect of it. But they just, both teams were hot, Broncos and the Vikings. It just so matters that the Broncos came out on top, and the Broncos looked like the better football team at times and in the most important moments. That's why they won. But yeah, Vikings moving down 1 spot. Josh Dobbs, I feel like he holds the football too long, but it does feel like their defense has been playing pretty well for the most part. They're not great. They're going to have weeks where they struggle, and they struggled in a big moment. Russell Wilson's looking great, and that defense experienced that. So moving down 1 spot, but I will say I am very impressed with this coaching staff. I'm very impressed, and I think this team still has a bright future. I don't know who's going to be under quarterback next year. I would assume it would be Kirk Cousins, but having that injury, you really don't know. With the Broncos at number 13, moving up 3 spots, looking pretty good. Ran the football well. Russell Wilson is kind of entering himself in the MVP conversation. I've been really impressed with the Broncos. Obviously, they're on a 4-game winning streak, I think. 4. Because they beat the Packers, the Chiefs, the Bills, and now the Vikings. So they're hot, one of the hotter teams in the NFL, and they're going to continue to move up. And I already hear it. I already hear the comments coming at me. Why do you have the Bills over the Broncos? The Broncos just beat the Bills. Hold on. Hear me out. Listen to me. Like I've said many times in the past, I don't do my power rankings based off of head-to-head matchups. They matter a little bit, but not a lot. Just because, let's say this. Just because the Panthers beat the Bills, does that make them better? No. Now, the Broncos are much better than the Panthers, yes. If the, let's say, the Patriots beat the Bills, are they better? No. Just because the Broncos beat the Bills, it doesn't necessarily mean they're better. And I know that's a very contradicting statement. That's a very controversial statement to make. But the Bills, even though they lost that game, they played like the better team. They looked like the better team. They still just made a lot of stupid mistakes, which you could argue, it's part of the game. Yeah, I completely understand. But the Bills just killed the Jets, a team that has given everyone issues. The Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Bills experienced it the first week of the season. The Bills are better than the Broncos. They're a better football team. And as of right now, and that is why I'm putting them over the Broncos. I understand the Broncos beat them. I 100% get it. But that doesn't necessarily mean the Broncos are better than the Bills. This is just how the board fell. This is just how the puzzle went together. It's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Sometimes it's very, it's not straightforward. It's not just a head-to-head matchup that decides who's higher. Just not how it works. All right, next up. Cincinnati Bengals moving down 4 spots. Rough night, losing your franchise quarterback, your starting quarterback for the rest of the year. Definitely sucks. Jets kind of experienced that in the beginning of the year. Bengals experiencing it now. It's always disappointing. It's always so sad to see. It sucks. But I'm not moving them that far down because they lost one game to a football team that has killed everyone except for the Browns. They have kept it close with the Browns. The Browns actually beat the Ravens. But the Ravens beat up on them good. They ran the football well. They passed the football well. OBJ looked great, but they lost. They got beat pretty good. And even with Joe Burrow, they probably wouldn't do it. I mean, moving down 4 spots, I just don't. They're probably going to fall down a lot more. Losing Joe Burrow, they're probably going to continue to fall 100%. Without their franchise guy, they're not going to be as good as a lot of teams aren't. It's just the way the NFL goes. Like the Jets, if they had Aaron Rodgers, they'd be so much better. The Browns are losing Deshaun. Kirk Cousins have looked good with Dobbs, but it's probably going to catch up with them eventually. And the Bengals are going to probably continue to lose. Or they have really good defense. They have good weapons. So maybe whoever you plug in at quarterback there can make it work, but they're no Joe Burrow. We all know that. Though maybe the Bengals could still be a decent football team with whoever they play, A.J. McCarron or Jake Browning, whoever they decide to move forward with. Neither of them are Joe Burrow, obviously. But, I'm not just going to move them all the way down just because Joe Burrow went out and they lost one game without him, majority of the game. But they will probably continue to fall down the power rankings list. Number 10, Jacksonville Jaguars, moving up 1 spot. Finally had that game. Finally beat up on a team that they should beat up on and have a strong performance. They did so. And the Titans, for whatever reason, they are so much worse when they are away. They're so much better at home. It's weird. But, hey, after coming off the bye, coming off of a game they got killed, it was nice to see the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley. It was nice to see them bounce back. Felt like they could have ran it with Travis Etienne more, but, the Titans did a pretty good stopping them. Did a pretty good job against the run. Not naming Trevor Lawrence because he ran for 2 touchdowns. But Lawrence looked pretty good in this game. But, can they string it together? Can they be consistent? Huge matchup this week between number 9 and 10. Texans and the Jaguars. Texans moving up 1 spot to 9. Like I said earlier in the live, like I talked about, when a team struggles, a sign of a really good football team, when they struggle the entire game, most of the game, but you still find a way to win after throwing 3 interceptions, turning the ball over a couple times, just not really looking like the Texans we've seen the last couple of weeks against the Bengals, against some of these other teams. It's a very good sign of a team to win that kind of a game. And big matchup between the Texans and the Jaguars. Big matchup. The rookie who has done more, to be honest, he has done more in a half a season than Lawrence has, and the amount of time he's been in the league. I hate to say it, but it's just kind of the truth. I think C.J. Stroud has shown more. I think he has played better than what we've ever seen from Lawrence. All right, number 8, Dolphins move down 2 spots. So it's a rare instance where a team moves down, not just 1, but 2 spots after losing. But you struggled. The Raiders are a team that you should have been able to be a lot better than you had. I know the Raiders 5-5. They were 5-5. They were at 500. Good football team, not great. You give rid of Josh McDaniels, they look better. Offense has looked better. The offense has been more smooth. The defense has been better the last couple of weeks, and especially really good outing versus the Dolphins. But the Dolphins, that's a team that you shouldn't have that much of an issue with. You should be able to put up 30 points against the Raiders. You should be able to win that game comfortably. That game was on comfortably close. And that's why they're moving down 2 spots. Like I said, it's rare to move a team down when they win. But there's, once you get into the top 10 here, you have to get very nitpicky with where you put teams. You have to nitpick them for everything. Especially once you get into the top 5, one little thing can move you down. It's just, that's how it is. If you want to be one of the best teams in the NFL, you have to play like it. And there's going to be nitpicking. That's just how you have to rank the best teams. Because they do everything so well. But you have to decide, what would you rather. You have to decide, is this okay? Is that okay? You have to decide, how much will this affect the team? How much will, how much does something so little affect where they position in power rankings? And that's why the Dolphins are moving down 2 spots. There are other teams around them like the Niners and the Cowboys that they just dominated their opposition, which they didn't play good teams. They didn't play great teams, but the Dolphins didn't play a great team either. So that's why the Cowboys and the Niners moved up over them. Cowboys, very dominating performance over the Panthers, as they should. You should dominate the Panthers. You shouldn't have too much of an issue against them. Their offense, outside of Bryce Young showed some promise, had a really nice big drive there. I think that was the best we've ever seen Bryce Young. Other than that, and Adam Thielen, what does he really have? Not too much. He's thrown a lot of pick sixes so far this season. But Cowboys dominated their opposition. They move up a spot. Niners, they're moving up 3. Dominated the Buccaneers. Well, if you look at the score, it wasn't more than a 2-possession game. But the Niners, it felt like they dominated that game. I felt like it wasn't close all game long. Niners did a very good job. So, moving up 3 spots. Brock Purdy looked really good. And especially coming off of, a losing streak, they dominated the Jags. They're kind of looking like the Niners that we've seen in the beginning of the year, which is good to see. The Browns, they're staying put. I didn't feel the need to move them down yet. They did win. Tough game without their quarterback. And, like I said, you do have to nitpick up here. But I'm giving the Browns a little bit of the benefit of the doubt before they really probably might start plummeting. But even when Deshaun wasn't in there, they were winning. So, and I know it was a very close game. DTR outperformed Kenny Pickett, and that's why they won. It was whoever was going to make the bigger play. DTR did. And I want to see how DTR is going to do as the season goes on. Is he going to continue to get better? I'm excited for DTR. I think he can be a good quarterback. And we'll see as the season goes on. So, Browns are staying put. They still have one of the best defenses in the NFL. Passing-wise especially. Offensive-wise, that's kind of like that little chink in the armor. But they're staying put. Probably will move down if they cannot start winning more convincingly, especially, like I said, you have to be nitpicky up here in top 10. Number 4, Detroit Lions. It's a close game there. Close call. And like I said, you have to nitpick, but, that's another thing that, another thing that you have to include is when a team has a bad game, when a team struggles, when they're not playing great football that specific game, but they still find a way to win. Down 10 points with, less than 4 minutes left to go in the game. They find a way to win. And that's a sign of a really good football team. As I said for the Texans and with that Cardinals game. When a team struggles the majority of the game, the Bears outplayed them all game long. Except for when it mattered most, Jared Goff put those 3 interceptions behind him. He put that game behind him. The rest of this Lions team put it behind them. And that's why they're staying up here for now. But the Lions staying put at 4. The Chiefs moving down 1 spot. Bad game versus the Eagles. Very disappointing. Mahomes can only do so much, man. MVS dropping wide open passes hurts. Mahomes can't go out there and catch for them. Travis Kelce even dropped a pass in this game. Justin Watson dropped a pass late in that game, 4th and 25. I get it. 3 defenders around him. I'm not saying I could go out there and make that catch, but, in the NFL, it's a business as harsh, And that's the kind of catch you have to go out and make when your hands are on the ball. When you have that ball in your hands, there's no excuses on why you cannot come down with it. And you couldn't. When it's in your hands, even though if it's a really tough catch to make, if it's in your hands, you have to catch it. But the Chiefs, their defense looked pretty good. Second half, the Eagles caught on. They adjusted. They looked better. They started running the ball really well. But, it was a close game. So I'm only moving them down one spot. Because, the other teams around them didn't feel like they could move down too much more. Just, kind of the way the puzzle went together this week. Number 2, the Ravens moving up one spot. Really good game versus the Bengals. They dominated them, ran the ball really well. They've been beating up on good football teams all year long, so it's not like they don't have the resume. Just because Burrow went out, it's not why they won. They did a very good job. Good defense. Looking really good. Moving up one spot to 2. Number 1, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, man. Even though the numbers don't say so, I feel like this is one of the more impressive games for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had a good game. Even though he had only threw for 150 yards and interception, I felt like he put all that behind him when it mattered most, and he had a really good drive there. The running game was absolutely helping him, and he did have a couple of throws in this game were very, very interesting, very questionable, like that interception to L'Jarius Sneed. Why didn't he lay it over? Why didn't he put it up top and let A.J. Brown go run to it a little bit maybe? That would have been a touchdown. Instead, it was an interception going another way. Would have been a big play, touchdown, changed the entire complexity of the game, but is what it is. Give your props to the defense because they pressured him that game. They pressured him that play, which forced interception. But without Dallas Goedert, Eagles did pretty good on offense. I thought so anyways. They really picked it up in the second half. They shut out the Chiefs in the second half really good. No need to move them. So the Eagles number 1. And guys, that's all I got for you today.